What if I told you that every time you carve a jack-o'-lantern, you're performing an ancient ritual that once summoned the dead? That the candy you hand out on Halloween was originally food left for wandering spirits? That this innocent holiday hides a history so dark, so primal, that early Christians tried to destroy it completely and failed? Tonight, we're going to walk through 2,000 years of forbidden history. From blood sacrifices on Irish hilltops to the modern Halloween that generates billions of dollars worldwide. By the end of this journey, you'll never look at October 31st the same way again. But first, I need to know something. Drop a comment right now and tell me, where are you watching from? And what time is it in your world? Are you brave enough to join me on this dark pilgrimage through time? Because what we're about to uncover isn't just history. It's the story of humanity's oldest fear. The fear that death isn't the end. Picture this. It's 300 BCE. The hills of Ireland are shrouded in mist, and you're standing with a Celtic tribe as October 31st approaches. But they don't call it Halloween. They call it Samhain, pronounced Samhain, and it's the most terrifying night of the year. The Celts believed that on this night, the veil between our world and the other world became paper thin. The dead could walk among the living. Fairies, not the cute Disney kind, but dangerous, unpredictable beings, could cross over and steal your soul. Demons could possess your body. And if you weren't careful, you might not survive until sunrise. The Druids, Celtic priests with knowledge passed down through generations, would light massive sacred bonfires on hilltops. These weren't campfires. These were infernos that could be seen for miles, designed to guide the spirits of dead ancestors home while keeping malevolent entities at bay. The smoke carried prayers to the gods and formed a protective barrier between the living and the supernatural. But here's where it gets truly haunting. Families would set an extra place at dinner for their deceased loved ones. They'd leave food outside their doors, not for trick-or-treaters, but for hungry ghosts. And if you heard a knock at your door after dark, you had to decide. Was it your grandmother's spirit returning for one last visit, or something else wearing her face? The Celts wore costumes too, but not for fun. They dressed as animals and monsters to confuse evil spirits. If a demon couldn't recognize you as human, it couldn't harm you. Children blackened their faces with ash from the sacred fires, becoming temporary guardians between worlds. And if you think modern Halloween is scary, consider this. Celtic warriors believed that enemies killed in battle would return on Samhain for revenge. Entire villages would go into hiding, extinguishing all fires except the sacred ones, waiting in darkness for dawn to break the supernatural siege. But this is just the beginning of our story. What happened when the Roman Empire, with its own dark gods and bloody rituals, collided with these Celtic traditions? The answer will shock you. 52 BCE. Julius Caesar's legions have conquered Celtic Britain, and two ancient worlds are about to crash together in ways that will echo through history. The Romans didn't just bring swords and roads, they brought their own festivals of the dead. And when Roman ritual met Celtic magic, something new and terrifying was born. The Romans already celebrated Pomona, their goddess of fruit and orchards, in late October. This is why we still bob for apples on Halloween. It's a 2,000-year-old Roman ritual for predicting your romantic future. If you caught an apple with your teeth, you'd dream of your true love. If you failed, well, The Romans believed you were destined to die alone. But the Romans also honored their dead with parentalia, a festival where families would visit tombs and feed the deceased. They believed neglected spirits became restless, wandering the earth as vengeful shades. Sound familiar? The Romans were essentially performing their own version of Samhain, just with more wine and elaborate marble monuments. Here's what's fascinating. Instead of destroying Celtic Samhain, the Romans absorbed it. Roman soldiers stationed in Britain began participating in the bonfires. Roman merchants started selling items for the festival. Celtic druids learned Latin prayers to Roman gods. The two traditions began to merge into something neither culture had seen before. But Rome also brought something darker: gladiatorial games timed with festivals of the dead. In some provinces, condemned criminals were forced to fight to the death during Samhain celebrations, their blood offered to both Roman and Celtic gods. The living entertainment merged with honoring the dead, creating a spectacle that was part religious ceremony, part blood sport. The Romans even adopted the Celtic practice of divination on Samhain. Roman fortune tellers would read the future in animal sacrifices, believing the thin veil between worlds made prophecy more accurate. Young Roman women would perform Celtic rituals to see their future husbands in mirrors at midnight, a practice so popular it spread throughout the empire. And here's something that will make your skin crawl. Roman records describe Celtic druids performing human sacrifice on Samhain, burning victims alive in massive wicker structures to appease the gods. The Romans, despite their own brutal gladiatorial traditions, were horrified by these rituals. But this fusion of Roman and Celtic death worship was about to face its greatest challenge yet. A new religion was spreading through the empire, one that promised eternal life but demanded the destruction of all pagan festivals. The Christians were coming, and they had very different ideas about how to handle the dead. 325 CE. The Roman Empire has converted to Christianity, and Pope Gregory I faces a terrifying problem. No matter how many Celtic temples they destroy, no matter how many druids they execute, the people still celebrate Samhain, still light their bonfires, still leave food for the dead, still believe that October 31st is when spirits walk the earth. The church had tried everything. Missionaries preached that Celtic gods were demons in disguise. Christian soldiers burned sacred groves. New churches were built directly on top of ancient Samhain sites, using stones from pagan altars to construct Christian altars. But every October, the people returned to their old ways. Then Gregory had a brilliant, ruthless idea. If you can't destroy a pagan festival, baptize it, make it Christian, steal its power and redirect it toward the church. In 609 CE, he established May 13th as All Martyrs' Day, honoring Christian saints who died for their faith. But the people ignored it. They wanted their October celebration. So in 835 CE, Pope Gregory IV made a decision that would change history forever. He moved All Saints' Day to November 1st, directly confronting Samhain. The night before, October 31st, became All Hallows' Eve. Hallow meant holy person, so Halloween literally means holy evening. But here's what's chilling. The Christians didn't just rename the holiday, they transformed it into their own festival of the dead. All Saints' Day honored the martyrs, but November 2nd became All Souls' Day, a day to pray for ordinary Christians who had died. The church essentially created a 3-day festival of death to compete with Samhain. Christian families were encouraged to visit graves, light candles for the dead, and pray for souls trapped in the newly invented concept of purgatory. Sound familiar? They were doing exactly what their Celtic ancestors had done, just with Christian prayers instead of Druid incantations. But the pagan elements survived in terrifying ways. Medieval Christians still believed that evil spirits were most active on Halloween night. Church doctrine actually supported this. They taught that demons and witches held their most powerful gatherings on All Hallows' Eve, directly challenging the saints. Christian children were given soul cakes, sweet breads marked with crosses, in exchange for prayers for the dead. This was called souling, and it's the direct ancestor of trick-or-treating. But if you refused to give soul cakes, medieval Christians believed you'd be cursed by the spirits of the dead. And here's something truly disturbing. The church began teaching that Halloween was when the devil himself walked the earth, recruiting new followers. Christian artwork from this period shows Satan leading processions of demons, witches, and damned souls through medieval villages on Halloween night. Medieval mystery plays performed on Halloween depicted the harrowing of hell, Christ's descent into the underworld to rescue righteous souls. But these performances were so realistic, so terrifying, that audiences often fled in panic, believing they were witnessing actual supernatural events. The church had succeeded in making Halloween Christian, but they had also made it more frightening than ever before. Because now it wasn't just Celtic spirits that threatened the living. It was the Christian devil himself. But this war between pagan and Christian wasn't over. As Christianity spread across Europe, each culture added its own dark traditions to Halloween. And what emerged was something neither the Celts nor the Christians had ever imagined. October 31st, 1484. The witch hunts are beginning across Europe, and Halloween is about to become the most dangerous night of the year. Not because of ancient Celtic spirits or Christian demons, but because of very real human beings accused of consorting with Satan himself. Pope Innocent VIII has just issued the papal bull Summis Desiderantes Affectibus, officially authorizing the hunting and execution of witches. And guess which night they believed witches held their most powerful gatherings? All Hallows' Eve. The infamous Malleus Maleficarum, the hammer of witches, taught that Halloween was when witches flew to their Sabbaths, meeting with the devil to receive new powers. They supposedly traveled on broomsticks, in eggshells, or transformed into animals. Black cats, already associated with Celtic magic, became proof of witchcraft. But here's what's truly horrifying. Most witches were just people practicing ancient Halloween traditions, old women who knew herbal medicine, midwives who helped during difficult births, anyone who celebrated Samhain the old way, with bonfires and offerings to the dead. The witch trials turned Halloween into a night of pure terror. Families huddled behind locked doors, afraid to light candles or show any sign of celebration. Children were taught to report their own grandmothers if they saw them leaving food for the dead or practicing any old customs. In Salem, Massachusetts, the witch trials of 1692 began with teenage girls claiming to see specters on Halloween night. 20 people died, but the trial started an American tradition. Halloween as a night when the supernatural becomes visible and dangerous. But people found ways to preserve the old traditions in secret. They began wearing costumes not just to confuse spirits, but to hide their identities from witch hunters. If you were caught celebrating Halloween, you could claim you were just playing a harmless game of dress-up. The jack-o'-lantern emerged during this period. But not from pumpkins, from turnips. Irish peasants would carve frightening faces into turnips and place candles inside, creating portable protection against both supernatural evil and very human persecution. The glowing faces were meant to scare away demons, devils, and witch hunters alike. European folklore from this period gave us many modern Halloween figures. The headless horseman comes from Irish stories of the Dullahan, a headless fairy who rode on Halloween to collect souls. Vampires entered popular culture through Slavic beliefs that the dead rose on All Hallows' Eve to feed on the living. But perhaps most disturbing of all, the witch trials created the modern image of Halloween witches. Real women died because people believed they flew on broomsticks and made pacts with Satan. Their deaths transformed Halloween from a festival of honoring the dead into a celebration of the very stereotypes that killed them. The irony is overwhelming. Christianity had tried to eliminate pagan Halloween traditions, only to create something far more sinister. The witch hunts made Halloween about human evil rather than supernatural fear. The holiday became a memorial to persecution disguised as entertainment. And when European colonists brought these traditions to America, they carried both the ancient Celtic magic and the medieval Christian terror. Halloween was about to be reborn in the New World. But it would take a form that no one could have predicted. The Mayflower Pilgrims have landed in Massachusetts, and they've brought their war against Halloween with them. These Puritan settlers consider any celebration of October 31st to be devil worship. They fled religious persecution in Europe, only to create their own religious tyranny in America. But they can't escape what they're running from. The Irish, Scottish, and Welsh immigrants flooding into America bring their Halloween traditions hidden in their hearts. In secret attics and basement cellars, they still carve jack-o'-lanterns, still tell ghost stories, still believe the dead walk on Halloween night. The Puritans try everything to stop Halloween. They make celebration illegal. They impose fines and public punishments. In some colonies, you could be whipped for lighting a Halloween bonfire or even mentioning the old traditions. But persecution only drives the holiday deeper underground, making it more mysterious and appealing. Then something unexpected happens. The American frontier changes Halloween forever. In isolated settlements, where survival depends on community cooperation, people need celebrations to bring them together. Halloween begins evolving from a religious observance into a social necessity. Colonial Americans create play parties, harvest celebrations that technically aren't Halloween, but happen on October 31st. They tell ghost stories, play divination games, and yes, they still leave food for the dead. But now they call it honoring ancestors instead of feeding spirits. The jack-o'-lantern makes its American debut, but with a crucial change. Colonists discover that pumpkins, native to America, are much easier to carve than European turnips. This simple substitution will eventually make Halloween uniquely American. But America also adds something uniquely terrifying to Halloween: the fear of the unknown wilderness. Colonial ghost stories aren't about ancient Celtic spirits. They're about Native American warriors, wild animals, and the endless dark forest that surrounds every settlement. Halloween becomes about survival fear as much as supernatural dread. The Salem witch trials of 1692 sear Halloween into the American consciousness forever. The trials begin with children claiming to see specters and devils on Halloween night. Though the trials happen throughout the year, Halloween becomes permanently associated with accusations, persecution, and death. 20 people die in Salem, but their deaths create an American Halloween tradition, using the holiday to confront real social fears through supernatural metaphors. Salem makes Halloween about hidden guilt, community suspicion, and the danger of mass hysteria. As America grows, Halloween fragments into regional traditions. In the South, it blends with African spiritual practices brought by enslaved people. In Louisiana, it merges with voodoo and Creole traditions. Each wave of immigrants, German, Italian, Chinese, adds their own ghost stories and death rituals to the American Halloween melting pot. But the most important change happens gradually. Halloween begins shifting from a religious observance to entertainment. American pragmatism transforms an ancient spiritual festival into a social activity. The focus moves from honoring the dead to having fun while pretending to be scared. This transformation isn't complete yet. That will take another century. But by 1800, America has planted the seeds for modern Halloween. The holiday is becoming less about actual supernatural belief and more about enjoying supernatural thrills. What happens next will surprise you. Halloween almost dies completely in the 19th century America. A combination of religious revival, westward expansion, and Civil War trauma nearly kills the holiday forever. But its resurrection will be more dramatic and profitable than anyone could imagine. Halloween is dying in America. The Second Great Awakening, a massive Christian revival movement, is sweeping the country. And evangelical preachers are condemning Halloween as satanic paganism. Entire communities are abandoning October 31st celebrations, choosing prayer meetings over pumpkin carving. The California gold rush and westward expansion scatter families across the continent. The communal traditions that kept Halloween alive are breaking apart as people chase dreams of wealth in isolated mining camps and frontier towns. Who has time for ancient Celtic rituals when you're panning for gold or fighting for survival? Then the Civil War arrives, like a scythe through American society. From 1861 to 1865, the country is too busy with real death, real horror, real supernatural dread to play with pretend versions. When 620,000 Americans die in battle, Halloween's mock celebration of death feels obscene. Halloween survives in scattered pockets. Irish immigrant communities in Boston, German settlements in Pennsylvania, Louisiana. Creole families who blend it with their own spiritual traditions. But for most Americans, October 31st becomes just another autumn day. But then something remarkable happens. The very forces that nearly killed Halloween become the tools of its resurrection. The Industrial Revolution creates a new American middle class with disposable income and leisure time. People want entertainment, escapism, something to take their minds off the rapid changes transforming their world. Enter the Irish immigrants fleeing the potato famine. Between 1845 and 1855, over 1 million Irish come to America. And they bring Halloween with them like precious cargo. But this isn't the ancient Samhain of Celtic druids. It's Halloween filtered through centuries of Christian influence, European witch hunts, and American pragmatism. The Irish Halloween tradition emphasizes community fun over supernatural fear. They popularized trick-or-treating, evolved from souling, costume parties, and Halloween games like bobbing for apples. Most importantly, they make Halloween about children rather than adults. By 1870, Halloween is clawing its way back to life in American cities. Newspapers begin printing Halloween stories and party ideas. Department stores start selling Halloween decorations, mostly handmade items like paper cutouts and simple masks. But the real resurrection comes from an unexpected source: American women. In the late 1800s, middle-class women are looking for socially acceptable ways to organize community events. Halloween parties become the perfect solution, exciting enough to be interesting, traditional enough to be respectable. Ladies' magazines like Godey's Ladies' Book begin publishing elaborate Halloween party ideas. These articles transform Halloween from a folk tradition into a domestic art form. American women become the keepers and innovators of Halloween culture. The Victorian era adds its own Gothic sensibility to Halloween. This is when haunted houses, seances, and spiritualism merge with traditional Halloween celebrations. Americans become fascinated with talking to the dead, not out of ancient religious belief, but as entertainment. By 1890, Halloween is firmly established as an American tradition, but it's completely transformed from its origins. It's no longer about honoring ancestors or warding off evil spirits. It's about community building, entertainment, and giving children a night to safely explore fear. This sets the stage for Halloween's complete transformation in the 20th century. But first, it has to survive World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II. Each crisis will reshape Halloween again, turning it into something even the Victorians couldn't imagine. Universal Studios releases Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, and Halloween will never be the same. For the first time in history, supernatural horror isn't folklore passed down through generations. It's mass-produced entertainment created in Hollywood studios and projected onto movie screens worldwide. Lugosi's Dracula creates the template for modern Halloween monsters. Before this film, vampires were hideous corpses that crept from graves. Lugosi makes them seductive, sophisticated, and strangely appealing. He transforms the vampire from a folklore creature into a Halloween icon that people want to dress up as, rather than genuinely fear. Universal's monster movies, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, become Halloween's new mythology. These aren't ancient spirits from Celtic tradition or Christian demons from medieval theology. These are American-made monsters designed to thrill rather than terrify, to sell tickets rather than teach spiritual lessons. But here's what's fascinating. These Hollywood monsters follow the same patterns as ancient Halloween folklore. They're all about the boundary between life and death, the transformation of humans into something else, the fear that death isn't final. Hollywood unconsciously recreates the same themes that drove Samhain 2,000 years ago. The timing is perfect. America is entering the Great Depression, and people desperately need escapism. Halloween horror movies provide a safe way to experience fear. You can be terrified for 90 minutes, then walk out of the theater back into normal life. The monsters stay on screen where they belong. Radio adds another dimension. Shows like The Shadow and Inner Sanctum broadcast Halloween horror stories directly into American homes. Families gather around radios on October 31st, creating shared supernatural experiences without any actual supernatural belief. Then comes the 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast. Orson Welles' fake news report about Martian invasion airs 6 days before Halloween, and thousands of Americans believe it's real. The panic proves that Halloween's power to blur the line between reality and fantasy is stronger than ever. World War II changes everything again. Halloween almost disappears during wartime. Sugar rationing kills candy distribution. blackout regulations eliminate decorative lighting, and people are too worried about real monsters, Nazis, to play with pretend ones. But the war also internationalizes Halloween. American soldiers stationed overseas introduce Halloween to British, French, and Pacific allies. For the first time, Halloween begins spreading beyond Irish and Scottish immigrant communities to become a global phenomenon. When soldiers return home in 1945, they bring Halloween back with them to the new suburban America. And suburban America is about to transform Halloween more radically than any previous change in its 2,000-year history. The post-war economic boom creates the perfect environment for Halloween's final transformation. Suburban neighborhoods provide safe spaces for children to trick-or-treat. Mass-produced costumes and decorations make Halloween accessible to every family. Television brings Halloween specials directly into living rooms. But most importantly, Halloween becomes completely commercialized. What started as an ancient religious festival has become a retail holiday designed to sell products. And Americans embrace this transformation enthusiastically. The 1950s established Halloween's modern form. Neighborhood trick-or-treating, mass-produced costumes, decorated houses, Halloween TV specials, and mountains of candy. This is when Halloween stops being about honoring the dead and becomes entirely about entertaining the living. But commercialization comes with a cost. In making Halloween safe and profitable, America strips away most of its spiritual significance. Modern Halloween is almost purely secular, a celebration of imagination rather than an engagement with mortality. By 1960, Halloween has completed its journey from ancient Celtic death ritual to modern American consumer holiday. But this transformation creates a new question. What happens when a holiday loses its original meaning but keeps its powerful imagery? The answer lies in Halloween's continued evolution through the cultural upheavals of the 1960s and beyond. Post-war America is building something unprecedented: mass suburbia. Identical houses with perfect lawns stretch across the continent, and Halloween is about to conquer this new American landscape in ways that would horrify the ancient Celts. Levittown, New York, America's first mass-produced suburb, becomes Halloween's testing ground. For the first time in history, you have hundreds of families living in identical houses, all participating in the same holiday rituals on the same night. Halloween becomes the suburban community's first shared experience. But suburbia changes Halloween's fundamental nature. The ancient festival was about confronting death, honoring ancestors, and acknowledging the supernatural. Suburban Halloween is about cuteness, safety, and community bonding. The horror elements become purely decorative. Plastic spiders instead of real fear. Rubber masks instead of spiritual transformation. Department stores like Woolworths and Sears begin mass-producing Halloween costumes. Children no longer create their own disguises from household items. They choose from pre-made characters like cowboys, princesses, and cartoon figures. Halloween becomes less about imagination and more about consumption. The trick-or-treat system evolves into its modern form. Suburban parents establish unspoken rules. Only visit houses with porch lights on, always travel in groups, stay in your own neighborhood, return home by 9 p.m. Halloween becomes regulated, sanitized, safe. This safety comes at a cost. The ancient belief that Halloween was dangerous, that real supernatural forces were active, disappears completely. Suburban children experience Halloween as pure fun with no spiritual content whatsoever. The holiday becomes hollow, a shell of its former meaning. Television accelerates Halloween's transformation. Shows like Leave It to Beaver and The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet present Halloween as wholesome family entertainment. The supernatural elements become cartoon-like rather than genuinely mysterious. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, premieres in 1966 and becomes the definitive suburban Halloween experience. Linus waiting for a supernatural visitor who never comes perfectly captures how Halloween has changed. All anticipation of the magical, with no actual magic ever arriving. But suburbia also democratizes Halloween. In rural communities, Halloween celebration depended on local traditions and family knowledge. In the city, it was limited by poverty and crowded living conditions. Suburbia makes Halloween accessible to every family, regardless of background or beliefs. The result is Halloween's complete Americanization. Regional variations disappear as families from different ethnic backgrounds adopt the same suburban Halloween practices. Irish traditions, German customs, Italian folklore, all blend into a generic American Halloween experience. Mass media creates shared Halloween references. Horror movie monsters from Universal Studios become common costume choices. Television specials establish Halloween traditions that every American child recognizes. Regional ghost stories are replaced by nationally known Halloween characters. By 1970, suburban Halloween has achieved something remarkable. It has become America's most participated in holiday after Christmas. More households participate in Halloween than Thanksgiving, Easter, or 4th of July. A festival that almost died in the 1800s has become central to American cultural identity. But success creates new problems. As Halloween becomes more popular, it also becomes more controversial. Religious groups begin questioning whether Christians should participate in a holiday with pagan origins. Safety concerns arise about children accepting candy from strangers. The 1970s bring new challenges to Halloween's suburban dominance. And then, in 1978, a small independent film called Halloween introduces a new kind of horror to the holiday. This movie will transform Halloween one more time, adding genuine fear back to a celebration that had become almost entirely safe. What happens when real horror returns to Halloween? The answer involves urban legends, moral panic, and the birth of an entirely new relationship between Americans and their most beloved, scary holiday. October 31st, 1978. Halloween premieres in theaters across America, and everything changes. Director John Carpenter takes the safe, sanitized suburban Halloween and transforms it into a hunting ground for an unstoppable killer. The movie turns familiar Halloween imagery, carved pumpkins, trick-or-treaters, quiet suburban streets, into symbols of terror. Michael Myers, the film's masked killer, represents Halloween's shadow side returning with a vengeance. He's not a supernatural monster like Dracula or Frankenstein. He's a human being who becomes inhuman, wearing a blank white mask that transforms him into pure evil. He stalks babysitters on Halloween night, turning the holiday's celebration of childhood into a massacre of innocence. The film's genius is making everyday Halloween scenes terrifying. A carved pumpkin becomes sinister. Children in costumes become potential victims. The suburbs, which seemed like the safest place on earth, become a horror movie setting. Carpenter weaponizes America's Halloween nostalgia against itself. Halloween spawns dozens of imitators and sequels, creating the slasher genre that dominates 1980s horror. These films follow the same pattern. A masked killer targets teenagers during holiday celebrations, turning sacred American traditions into bloodbaths. Halloween becomes associated with fictional murder sprees. But the movie's influence extends beyond cinema. Real Halloween celebrations begin incorporating Halloween movie elements. Haunted houses start featuring Michael Myers masks. Halloween parties screen the film as entertainment. The movie becomes part of Halloween tradition rather than just commentary on it. This creates a fascinating loop. Halloween the holiday influences Halloween the movie, which then influences Halloween the holiday again. The ancient Celtic festival that honored the dead has become a modern American holiday that celebrates fictional killing. The 1980s also bring the Satanic Panic, a moral hysteria claiming that devil worshippers are using Halloween to recruit children and conduct ritual abuse. Evangelical Christians launched campaigns to ban Halloween from schools and communities, arguing that the holiday serves Satan's agenda. These fears seem ridiculous now, but they were genuinely terrifying to many parents. Hospitals began X-raying trick-or-treat candy for hidden razor blades and needles. Schools eliminated Halloween parties. Some communities canceled trick-or-treating entirely. The irony is overwhelming. Halloween had become so commercialized and sanitized that it contained almost no spiritual content whatsoever. Yet people feared it was a gateway to demonic possession. The holiday that had lost its religious meaning was being attacked for being too religious. Urban legends proliferate during this period. Stories about poisoned candy, kidnapped children, and ritual sacrifice spread faster than facts. Most of these legends are completely false, but they reshape Halloween behavior. Parents begin accompanying children on trick-or-treat rounds. Communities organize safe Halloween alternatives in church parking lots and shopping malls. Television responds by creating family-friendly Halloween programming designed to compete with horror movies. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, gains new popularity as parents seek wholesome Halloween entertainment. Disney produces Halloween specials featuring Mickey Mouse and other cartoon characters. But horror continues to evolve alongside family entertainment. MTV begins playing horror-themed music videos in October. Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and other slasher franchises become Halloween staples. Horror and wholesomeness exist side by side in American Halloween culture. The 1990s bring Halloween's next major evolution: the rise of adult Halloween parties. For the first time since the medieval period, Halloween becomes primarily an adult holiday rather than a children's celebration. College students and young professionals embrace Halloween as an excuse for elaborate costume parties and nightclub events. This adult adoption of Halloween creates new traditions. Sexy costumes, horror-themed bar crawls, Halloween as a second New Year's Eve. The holiday expands beyond its suburban family origins to become a celebration of adult fantasy and escapism. By 2000, Halloween has become America's second-largest commercial holiday after Christmas. Americans spend billions of dollars annually on costumes, decorations, and candy. What started as an ancient Celtic death ritual has become a massive retail phenomenon that generates more revenue than most countries' entire economies. But commercialization isn't the end of Halloween's story. The 21st century brings new challenges and transformations that will once again reshape this ancient yet modern holiday. The internet is about to transform Halloween in ways more radical than anything in its 2,000-year history. As Y2K fears grip the world, Halloween enters cyberspace and discovers that digital technology can make ancient fears feel completely new. The first Halloween websites appear in the mid-1990s, sharing ghost stories, decoration ideas, and costume instructions. But these early sites do something unprecedented. They connect Halloween enthusiasts worldwide, creating a global community around a holiday that had always been intensely local. Message boards and chat rooms become virtual campfires where people share ghost stories year-round. Halloween fan sites catalog urban legends, analyze horror movies, and document regional Halloween traditions that might otherwise disappear. The internet becomes Halloween's memory keeper. Online costume retailers revolutionize Halloween shopping. Instead of choosing from whatever your local department store stocks, you can order any costume imaginable and have it delivered to your door. The internet democratizes Halloween creativity. Small businesses can compete with major retailers, and niche costumes become available to everyone. Social media transforms Halloween from a once-a-year celebration into a year-round obsession. Facebook allows people to share Halloween memories and plan elaborate celebrations. Instagram makes Halloween costume selection a competitive art form. Pinterest becomes a repository of DIY Halloween projects that would make Victorian party planners weep with envy. But social media also creates new Halloween anxieties. Parents worry about child predators using Halloween as cover. Costume choices become politically charged. Cultural appropriation debates rage over who can wear what. Halloween becomes a minefield of social media outrage and virtue signaling. YouTube creates Halloween's new storytellers. Channels dedicated to horror stories, paranormal investigations, and Halloween history reach millions of viewers. These aren't professional filmmakers or traditional media companies. They're ordinary people who've become Halloween's new cultural authorities. Creepypasta, internet horror stories, becomes Halloween's modern folklore. Stories like Slender Man spread across the internet, evolving through retelling just like ancient ghost stories did. The internet recreates the oral tradition of Halloween storytelling, but with global reach and viral speed. Augmented reality and location-based games add new layers to Halloween celebrations. Pokemon Go-style apps encourage people to visit real locations with supernatural histories. QR codes on Halloween decorations link to exclusive content. The boundary between physical and digital Halloween experiences dissolves. But the internet also fragments Halloween culture. Instead of shared national Halloween experiences, people retreat into niche communities organized around specific interests. Horror movies, paranormal investigation, gothic fashion, Halloween crafting. The common cultural references that once unified American Halloween begin to splinter. COVID-19 in 2020 forces Halloween completely online for the first time. Virtual trick-or-treating, Zoom costume parties, and live-streamed haunted house experiences become the new normal. The pandemic proves that Halloween can survive even when people can't physically gather. TikTok becomes Halloween's newest cultural force. 15-second videos create viral Halloween trends that spread faster than any previous Halloween innovation. Dance challenges, costume transformations, and horror story compilations reach billions of viewers instantly. But the internet also revives Halloween's darker elements. Online communities dedicated to real occult practices use Halloween as a recruitment tool. Conspiracy theories about Halloween's true origins spread unchecked. The internet allows both genuine supernatural belief and complete Halloween skepticism to flourish simultaneously. E-commerce makes Halloween increasingly expensive and elaborate. What used to be a low-cost holiday celebrating creativity and community becomes a showcase for purchased sophistication. Instagram-worthy Halloween decorations cost thousands of dollars. Costume competitions require professional-level investment. By 2020, Halloween has become simultaneously more global and more fragmented than ever before. The internet spreads American Halloween traditions worldwide, while also allowing local traditions to find global audiences. Halloween becomes both more homogeneous and more diverse. The digital transformation of Halloween raises fundamental questions about the holiday's future. When Halloween becomes virtual, what happens to its physical, sensory elements? When Halloween becomes global, does it lose its cultural specificity? When Halloween becomes year-round, does October 31st still matter? These questions become crucial as Halloween enters its third millennium. The ancient Celtic festival has survived Roman conquest, Christian persecution, witch hunts, immigration, wars, suburban domestication, commercial exploitation, and digital transformation. But what comes next may be its greatest challenge yet. Halloween is going global, and the results are both fascinating and deeply unsettling. What started as an ancient Celtic death ritual became an American commercial holiday, and now it's spreading across the planet like a friendly virus, mutating as it encounters different cultures. Japan embraces Halloween with characteristic intensity. Shibuya district in Tokyo becomes home to the world's largest street Halloween party, with over 1 million costumed participants. But Japanese Halloween is different. It's about elaborate costume craftsmanship and artistic expression rather than supernatural celebration. They've stripped away Halloween's death themes and focused purely on transformation and creativity. South Korea takes Halloween in another direction entirely. K-pop stars use Halloween as an opportunity for dramatic image transformations. Korean Halloween becomes about beauty, glamour, and pop culture rather than horror. They've turned America's spooky holiday into Asia's fashion showcase. In Mexico, Halloween creates a fascinating tension with Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead. Both holidays honor death, but in completely different ways. Mexican families find themselves caught between ancient indigenous traditions and American commercial imports, creating hybrid celebrations that satisfy both cultural influences. Europe's relationship with Halloween is complicated by cultural memory. Countries that experienced witch hunts view Halloween's witch imagery differently than Americans do. Britain, Halloween's ancient birthplace, watches American traditions return home in unrecognizable forms. China attempts to regulate Halloween celebration, viewing it as Western cultural imperialism. But young Chinese embrace Halloween as rebellion against traditional authority. Shanghai's Halloween parties become political statements disguised as entertainment. The Communist Party finds itself in the strange position of opposing a holiday about dead spirits. India adapts Halloween to Bollywood sensibilities, creating elaborate costume parties that blend American horror themes with Indian mythology. Demons from Hindu tradition meet vampires from Hollywood movies. The result is a uniquely Indian Halloween that would confuse both ancient Celts and modern Americans. But globalization also creates Halloween homogenization. McDonald's serves the same Halloween-themed menu worldwide. Disney's Halloween merchandise looks identical in Tokyo, London, and New York. Global capitalism flattens Halloween's cultural variations into profitable predictability. Social media accelerates this process. Instagram Halloween posts look remarkably similar regardless of country. TikTok Halloween challenges spread identical content across all cultures. The internet makes global Halloween celebration possible, but also makes it boringly uniform. Religious communities worldwide struggle with Halloween spread. Islamic countries debate whether Halloween participation conflicts with religious beliefs. Catholic nations that successfully Christianized Halloween centuries ago watch it become secular again. Buddhist communities wonder how to reconcile Halloween's death themes with reincarnation beliefs. The environmental impact of global Halloween becomes staggering. Billions of plastic decorations, disposable costumes, and individually wrapped candies create massive waste streams. Halloween becomes an ecological disaster dressed as fun. Economic inequality shapes global Halloween access. Wealthy nations embrace increasingly elaborate celebrations, while developing countries struggle to afford basic participation. Halloween becomes another marker of global economic disparity. But globalization also preserves regional Halloween variations that might otherwise disappear. Irish traditional Halloween games, Scottish Halloween customs, and Eastern European Halloween folklore find new audiences through internet documentation and international cultural exchange. Climate change begins affecting Halloween celebration. Warmer October temperatures in northern climates change costume requirements and outdoor decoration durability. Hurricane seasons increasingly conflict with Halloween preparation. The holiday must adapt to environmental changes it may have helped cause. By 2020, Halloween has become humanity's first truly global folk holiday. Unlike Christmas or Easter, which spread through religious mission, Halloween spreads through commercial appeal and social media virality. It represents globalization's cultural power to transform local traditions into worldwide phenomena. But global success raises existential questions about Halloween's future. When a holiday belongs to everyone, does it belong to no one? When Halloween becomes universal, does it lose its power to create community bonds? When every day can be Halloween online, does October 31st still matter? These questions become critical as Halloween faces its newest challenge: a generation that has grown up entirely within digital culture, for whom virtual experience is as real as physical reality. What does Halloween mean to people who live half their lives online? The answer to that question will determine whether Halloween survives its next transformation or finally dies after 2,000 years of evolution. October 31st, 2024. As I finish telling you this story, children across the world are putting on costumes, carving pumpkins, and knocking on doors asking for candy. They have no idea they're participating in a ritual older than Christianity, performing actions that connect them to Celtic druids, medieval witches, and colonial American rebels. But here's what's truly remarkable. Despite 2,000 years of transformation, Halloween still serves its original purpose. It's still about confronting mortality, transforming identity, and acknowledging that the world contains mysteries beyond our understanding. The forms have changed completely, but the fundamental human needs remain identical. Think about what Halloween really is today. We voluntarily enter darkness, encounter frightening figures, and return safely home with rewards. This is exactly what Celtic Samhain was about. A temporary journey into the supernatural realm that ends with community celebration and shared resources. Modern haunted houses recreate medieval mystery plays that depicted journeys through hell. Horror movies follow the same narrative structure as ancient ghost stories told around campfires. Trick-or-treating preserves the gift exchange between living and dead that defines every culture's relationship with mortality. Even our modern anxieties about Halloween echo ancient fears. Parents worry about stranger danger during trick-or-treating, just like medieval families feared evil spirits entering their homes. We debate Halloween's commercialization, while ancient Celts worried about Roman influence corrupting their traditions. We use Halloween to explore social boundaries, just like our ancestors used it to confront supernatural ones. The most fascinating aspect of Halloween's evolution is how each generation thinks they're revolutionizing the holiday, while actually returning to its origins. 1960s counterculture embraced Halloween as rebellion against authority. Exactly what medieval peasants did during church-banned celebrations. Modern adult Halloween parties recreate the community gatherings that made Samhain, the Celtic social calendar's most important event. But Halloween's future remains genuinely uncertain. Climate change may force the holiday indoors, as extreme weather makes trick-or-treating dangerous. Virtual reality might replace physical costume wearing with digital avatar transformation. Artificial intelligence could generate personalized ghost stories that adapt to individual fears. Yet Halloween has survived every previous technological and social transformation by adapting while preserving its core function. Roman roads spread Celtic Halloween across Europe. Printing presses spread Halloween literature. Telegraph and telephone networks spread Halloween party planning. Radio and television spread Halloween entertainment. The internet spread Halloween globally. Each new technology has enhanced Halloween rather than replacing it. Virtual reality might create more immersive, haunted experiences. Social media might connect Halloween celebrations across cultures. Artificial intelligence might generate more personalized scares. The real question isn't whether Halloween will survive future changes, but what those changes will reveal about human nature. Halloween functions as humanity's annual mirror, reflecting our deepest fears and desires. How we celebrate Halloween shows who we are as a species. Ancient Celts used Halloween to honor death in a world where death was ever present. Medieval Christians used Halloween to battle evil in a world that felt spiritually dangerous. Colonial Americans used Halloween to build community in an isolated wilderness. Victorian Americans used Halloween to create domestic art in an industrializing world. Modern Americans use Halloween to experience safe thrills in an increasingly controlled society. Global cultures use Halloween to explore identity in an interconnected world. Future humans will use Halloween to address whatever challenges they face. Because here's Halloween's secret. It's not really about the past. It's about the eternal present moment when humans confront the unknown. Every Halloween celebration recreates that primordial experience of walking into darkness and returning transformed. When you put on a costume, you're practicing temporary death and rebirth. When you enter a haunted house, you're voluntarily facing your fears. When you give candy to trick-or-treaters, you're participating in a gift economy that builds community bonds. When you carve a jack-o'-lantern, you're creating protective magic that makes darkness less threatening. Halloween endures because it addresses unchanging human needs through infinitely adaptable forms. As long as humans fear death, crave transformation, and need community celebration, Halloween will evolve to serve those needs. The ancient Celts, who first celebrated Samhain 2,000 years ago, would recognize modern Halloween not in its specific practices, but in its essential spirit. They would understand that we're still using this night to honor the mystery of existence, to transform ourselves temporarily, and to build bonds with our community through shared experience of the unknown. Halloween's story isn't ending. It's beginning its next chapter. And you're not just watching that story unfold, you're writing it every time you participate in Halloween celebration, every time you pass Halloween traditions to the next generation, every time you use Halloween to explore who you are and who you might become. So here's my question for you. Fellow traveler through Halloween's dark history, after learning about Halloween's incredible 2,000-year journey, from Celtic death rituals to Roman festivals to Christian battles to American commercialization to global phenomenon, how do you see this ancient holiday differently now? When you celebrate Halloween this year, will you remember the druids who lit sacred bonfires to guide spirits home? Will you think about the medieval families who risked persecution to honor their ancestors? Will you appreciate how immigrant communities preserved these traditions through centuries of change? Drop a comment and tell me, what's the most surprising thing you learned about Halloween's history? Did any part of this story change how you think about October 31st? And most importantly, if you could celebrate Halloween in any historical period we discussed, which era would you choose and why? If this journey through Halloween's forbidden history has awakened something in you, if you hunger for more tales of forgotten gods, lost civilizations, and ancient mysteries that still shape our modern world, then join our circle of seekers. Subscribe and become part of a community that believes the past isn't dead. It's still speaking to us through the traditions we carry forward. Together, we'll continue exploring the shadows of history, uncovering the spiritual roots of modern life, and discovering how ancient wisdom can illuminate our contemporary struggles. Our next expedition into the unknown awaits. Until then, remember, Halloween isn't just about the past. It's about the eternal human need to face darkness and return to the light. And that journey never ends.